Man, I hate Paul Finebaum, but if he wanted to work for the ACC, I'd take him.
You're talking ball with the ACC Squad, sponsored by Game Time. From Florida State to North Carolina, from Syracuse to Miami, and from NC State to California, it's the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network, bringing you scoops, breakdowns, and the most comprehensive preview of the upcoming ACC weekend. Hang on, it could get loud, it could get heated, and it will definitely be fun. Squad up, you're part of the ACC Squad.
Hello, everyone, and welcome in the Locked On ACC. This is the ACC Squad. I'm Jackson Holzer, the host of Locked On Syracuse, and we got a great panel today. We got Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone, the hosts of Locked On Wolfpack, Morgan Thomas, the host of Locked On Clemson Tigers, and AJ Black, the host of Locked On Boston College. And we got an action-packed show for you all today. ESPN FPI, first rankings of the offseason. 3 teams in the ACC were represented. And the top team in the ACC, well, it might surprise you. And we will talk about that later on in the show. Plus, top 3 quarterbacks in the ACC. Thank you, Kenton, for inspiring this topic 20 minutes ago. You guys did not see it. It was behind the scenes before we hit this recording, but we will go over our top 3 quarterbacks in the ACC because Kenton's got a controversial take for you all. But first, Paul Finebaum, SEC Network apologist, propagandist, analyst. Well, without getting into all the quotes here, he basically told the ACC and the Big 12 to go screw themselves. And that's a euphemism for, I think you know what word I would actually use, but, we want this to be monetized here and all. I will get into one quote, though. He said, quote, "Quite frankly, if they get a couple of automatic qualifiers for an expanded college football playoff, that's probably more than they deserve." Folks, thank you all. All right. Who's buying the first round here? What do we have to say to Paul Finebaum?
The same thing I always got to say to Paul Finebaum. What exactly is anybody? This is who he's always been. This is who he will always be. This is another example of SEC media just grooming everybody to think, oh yeah, we're just so much better. We're so superior. Nobody deserves anything but us. We deserve all the things. We deserve all the stuff. We've got all the good teams. Hey, nobody can come over here and have instant success like those boys over there. In the quotes from the article that we're talking about here, he said that it was so upsetting and frustrating for him to hear the commissioner and head coaches in the best conference in college football talk about having to give SMU an equal chance. Oh, the crime, the travesty of giving a team that finished second in the Power 4 conference a chance. Oh my God. How awful is that? You know what we should have done instead, Jackson? You know what we should have done instead, Grayson? We should have put in an Alabama team that, by the way, we have more hosts on this show than they score points against Oklahoma. Yeah, that's an actual fact here. And that's the team that should have been in. Oh, that's just so sad that they didn't get in. We weren't arguing for a 9-win Miami because we understood that their defense couldn't stop a runny nose with Robitussin, a COVID booster, and 3 packs of tissue. We understood why they weren't getting in, despite having a number 1 pick. But oh no, not the special, wonderful little boys and girls from the SEC. It just means more, even though we saw them get their tails kicked all throughout the playoff and all throughout now the baseball, the college baseball World Series as well. We're watching them get their tail kicked again, but it just means more down there in SEC. Oh, it just means so much more.
I'll jump in next. The amount of gatekeeping going on in college football right now is nauseating. Like, it's the SEC, as Kenton very eloquently just said. Like, this is their new thing, sword to die on. Like, they're better than everybody else. It's superior. And before you guys all get in the chat, yes, I cover Boston College, and yes, I know we're the whipping boy for a lot of different schools. I get that. That's not the point. I'm talking about college football here and just the health of everything anyways, right? Like, there's so much more to football than just the power conference SEC schools. And we're so deep into the trees right now that we're not seeing that. All we see is those numbers, the TV contracts, the amount of money that they spend, the recruiting, the recruiting classes, all that good stuff. But at the end of the day, these things are going to change. And if we just let the SEC run away with everything, then the rest of the sport's going to be left behind, and it's not going to be as special as it's been. The whole point of all this is that we have a whole bunch of schools around the country that are special, that have a lot of traditions, that are things that are great about them, and we're just ignoring them because Alabama, Georgia, Florida, they want to throw a temper tantrum and have Paul Finebaum do it for them. It's enough. I hate listening to all this crap, and this is one of the biggest things about the offseason I can't stand is just the SEC temper tantrums every single year.
This is certainly how you know the month of June has arrived, because it's just SEC heads talking. They all sound like Charlie Brown's parents. Wah, 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 wah. That's all this is. Him saying that is effectively just to get guys like us, 5 ACC guys, to complain about it. It's a good thing that Paul Finebaum's not the one making the decisions, because we have a probable national champion in Clemson coming out of the ACC this year. I think Clemson's going to be one of the best teams in the country. And so just to discount the entire conference because, well, we're the SEC and we deserve everything. And the Big Ten, they get a little less than us, but we certainly get our piece of the pie. I mean, it is what it is. It's Paul Finebaum. What do you expect? He's just saying stuff to get us all riled up.
And that's why if he worked for the ACC, we would love him.
Well, I don't know.
He's definitely doing the job.
The ACC, they need someone like him.
The ACC needs a version of Paul Finebaum, yes.
Exactly.
First of all, I don't trust no man that's bald completely on the top but left the sides fully. I don't trust nobody who does that. That's insane. As a fellow brother in baldness, just get rid of it. Stop it. That tells me you make bad decisions right there. But in all seriousness, like these guys have already mentioned, there is so much goodness from around the country. And Morgan, please chime in on this because, again, I think that y'all are potential champions. Y'all have been champions in the past. And I think that the SEC is not that different than every other conference in that everybody says, oh, well, the ACC only has 2 to 3 good teams, 2 to 3 good brands, and everybody else is hogwash. What the hell do you think the SEC is? Why under God's green earth is Lane Kiffin saying anything? What can you possibly have to complain about? Where is Ole Miss's championships? Where's Ole Miss's SEC championship? What the hell?
I don't think they've ever won.
To demand the spot. Last time they won, I wouldn't have been allowed to go to that school. I'm pretty sure. If they do have one.
I need to go look at Ole Miss college football reference. Morgan, you can go chime in here.
I mean,
so please, I'm a champion.
I like what AJ was saying because, well, first of all, no disrespect to Homer Simpson and my dad out there for that haircut because they're rocking it right now. But, I agree with AJ because I hope that Paul Finebaum and what he says is obviously a talking head, and he is paid by ESPN, who is paying him to be a homer of the SEC, just like the other guys in Fox are paying Joel Klatt to be a homer of the Big 12, right? So, or excuse me, the Big 10 now. But so, I get it. They're paid to do that, and in a lot of ways, we're paid to back up the ACC, which is to your point. I thought Mark Packer was going to be that guy, but they kind of watered him down because the Mark Packer of 20 years ago would stand toe to toe with a Paul Finebaum. But, I get it. He's kind of in retirement age and he's moved on, and I get it. But, they do need someone. Can it be Eric McClain? Can it be EJ Manuel? I don't know. Whoever it can be for the ACC network needs to step up and to kind of grow a backbone, because we know Jim Phillips is not going to do that. And I will say that, second-class citizens just is extremely disrespectful to North Carolina State and their history, and Syracuse and their history, and Boston College and their history, and Stanford and Cal and SMU. Everybody has history. Now, Clemson has had the opportunity and the success of being able to stand toe-to-toe with any team out there. They've been able to bring in, when you look at the college football playoffs, what are some of the best games and the best ratings out there? It's Clemson, LSU. It's Clemson, Alabama. And so when when we have been able to make it there, we have brought a lot of views and a lot of fans that are traveling to those stadiums to watch them. I went across the country, and many Clemson fans did that multiple times without any second guessing of it. So we have fans, we have a tradition, and I'm not just talking about Clemson, I'm talking about all the other teams. So to say that everybody else is second class, okay, second class to Mississippi State? No, we'll never be second class to Mississippi State. We'll never be second class to Arkansas. They own the whole state, and we have better ratings than them on every single game we ever play, even the one against Furman. So don't tell me that the entire SEC just gets, a free pass because they're all together collective as one, because I believe we deserve a seat at the table. And as AJ said, it's just ridiculous that we have to do this every single year.
Get the preaching, Morgan. Get the preaching, Morgan.
That was a speech. I'm going to run through a wall right now. Come on, Morgan. You're the guy. You go toe-to-toe with Paul Finebaum and tell him to screw it.
Exactly. Listen,
we got a new voice of ACC right here.
Exactly.
We figured it out. It was just not
if nobody in the ACC network want to do it, the Locked On Podcast Network has a plethora.
We got 5 right here that are willing
We
to
got
back
Morgan
us up.
right here. He's going to read all the speeches.
Exactly. 6'7" Morgan.
The history of everyone. We're going to go back to Jim Brown and Ernie Davis.
And I think that, I get it. It's like, I don't like that he said that SMU, just doesn't deserve an equal opportunity either. I don't think that that's outdated. I do think that if we only allow his mindset, then you could see basically those two conferences having the Super League and not allowing anybody else in, and even having some sort of barrier to entry that is, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And to me, I don't see how, if he takes a step back, couldn't say that that's bad for college football as a whole. It's not just about 30 teams like the NFL. College football is different, and that's what we like about it.
I think we can continue this conversation, so why not?
Absolutely.
All right, we're going to continue this conversation right after this. The NBA Finals are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't-miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action, and FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live with player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays. Fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. If you're new to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. You want to know why? Because you can head to FanDuel.com right now and place your first $5 bet. And guess what, folks? If that first $5 bet wins, you'll get $200 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of the NBA. Let's continue this conversation about Paul Finebaum dissing the ACC and also the Big 12 for that matter. He kind of threw him under the bus as well. He grouped this all together. Maybe we should form an alliance with the Big 12, right? Maybe we should have a little fun there with them. ACC and Big 12 squad together. How about that?
How did the last alliance go?
Not well.
See, I was just about to say, if you're gonna do an alliance, you got to get something in writing. You got to this handshake and we're doing fairy dust and rainbows and it's a weasel, it's a wazoo, it's a fugazi, it's a fugazi. It ain't gonna work out if you're gonna do an alliance. It needs to be something written down on paper. But I just want to bring up Jackson's team real quick. If we're gonna talk about, hey, it doesn't matter what your record is, it's just about you playing tough games, right? This squad plays damn near half of the playoff from last year. You've got Tennessee, you've got SMU, you've got Notre Dame as well. So 3 of the 8 teams that were in the playoff, Syracuse is, and Clemson, I'm sorry. So they do play half. I apologize. So they play exactly half of the playoff from last year. I keep hearing from SEC schools, well, if you lose 4 games, but they're to really good teams, is it the same? It's different because you lost to good teams. Will that hold consistent if Syracuse goes 8-4 next year?
Absolutely not.
Will anybody be screaming and moaning? Well, they beat UConn, they beat Colgate, they beat Duke, they beat Pitt, they beat Georgia Tech, they beat Carolina, they beat Miami, they beat Boston College. Will anybody be screaming for poor Syracuse?
You know what would happen if Syracuse week 1 they play Tennessee? If they beat Tennessee, you know what's going to be said?
Oh, there's no.
No, they don't have Nico anymore.
Tennessee's just not good. They're just not a good team. I don't know what to tell you. They're going to finish like last in the SEC. Of course, you can beat the last team in the SEC on a neutral site. But maybe if you played that game in Knoxville, you would have lost.
Yeah, well, what if they would have played in the Carrier Dome? That would, and if ifs and buts were
I'm
berries
telling
and
you,
nuts.
that's what will happen.
Of course, but that's my problem. That is my problem with perception kind of bending reality. Perception should not do that in the way of, well, I think this is a good team, therefore this is a good team. No, line it the hell up. Who won the football game? Who looked good? Who didn't? People are talking to me about, that LSU team is right there. They were right there last year. I'll tell you what. You're talking about the same team that lost to USC? What are we doing here? Again, I understand teams are not the same team they were from week 1, but Clemson had week 1 held against them all year. Clemson had, what Georgia did to them, they're not a serious team. They might have made the playoff. They might have won ACC, but they're not a serious team. They weren't allowed to get better. But LSU is? What's the difference between the Tigers? They're both Tigers. They both play in Death Valley. They're more similar than we'd like to think here. But for some reason, one of them was allowed to get better and grow. And I can't wait. Morgan, I can't wait. You need to get him that pregame speech that you just gave us, because I can't wait to see Clemson put belt to behind in game 1 this year. I need it as bad as I need air, Morgan.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that game. I think everybody's got it circled. It's coming up quick, and Clemson's schedule has gotten a little bit more difficult as well because we've got some revenge games. Jackson, I'm looking at that Syracuse game. Like Fran Brown is saying, "Hey, we got you in the ACC," and I get it. This year, and as Grayson mentioned, this year is kind of a do or die, make or break year because, statistically you have a roster that is stacked with returning starters. Probably, I think statistically, if you look at like Phil Steele's numbers, it might be even percentage wise, the most returning starters of any Power 4 conference team. So they have to be able to make that. Now it all hinges around probably what we'll talk about later on in the show, which is the quarterback, and Cade Klubnik truly being the best quarterback in the conference and also maybe even in the country. Some people say he could be a first-round draft pick. But the thing about Cade is, while he's beaten, Kentucky, he's beaten the Tar Heels, he really hasn't won that marquee game in front of all nation, ESPN, everything, like nighttime lights, everything. He hasn't won that game. And so this LSU game is important for him because he didn't win Georgia. He didn't win Tennessee. And while he was younger in those, and you could kind of say those mistakes were forgiven, he has to step up now because you've got LSU starting out. Then you're going to have SMU. You're going to have Syracuse that's going to be wanting to come. You got to play Louisville on Friday night, and then you got South Carolina in their house this year, which we have a good streak going there. But still, they're going to want to show what they did at Clemson again in their stadium. So Clemson's got to navigate a more difficult schedule than last year. And they should have the roster to do it. Dabo Swinney's made the right decisions going forward for the staff as well. They just got to put it all together. I think this is a great start. And as you mentioned, the biggest thing for me with the ACC in perception is really week 1. What has hurt the ACC more than anything, and Clemson included? Clemson has been at times like the team you wish that they would be at week 1. But then a lot of times they've stubbed their toe week 1. And I hate it. You see Duke stub their toe. You see Clemson stub their toe. You see other ACC teams getting opportunities. Like Jackson, you mentioned, you've got Tennessee this year. We all have to come together and say, hey, you know what? If we want the respect, it starts week 1 because, as Kenton mentioned, they're not going to let you forget about it.
Yeah.
Well, on that note, I think this is a perfect transition to the ESPN FPI that was released earlier this week. Now, keep in mind, you all are watching or listening to this. It's premiering on Thursday evening. We are recording this on Tuesday, but I believe it was the first one that ESPN released. It was their early top 25, right? 3 ACC teams were in. So, of course, the ACC doesn't get a whole lot of respect. But Clemson, they're in the top 25. They're 11th, which is pretty good. SMU's 20th. But notice how I'm leaving out a team here. Miami is the best team in the ACC in the first ESPN FPI. So, I mean, who wants to buy the first round here? I mean, who else found that surprising, or is it not surprising to you all?
I'll buy the first round and then dump it out all over the floor. It's not going to be Miami. I'm sorry, because Carson Beck is your quarterback. If anyone's heard me talk about Carson Beck before, you know how I feel. I mean, best of luck to Alex Dono, but I don't see it. He's coming off of Tommy John surgery, no less. So, you hope that he can at least be fully 100% healthy. Miami's problem last year was their defense. They could score with absolutely anyone in the country, but could they stop them on the backside of that? Until I see that problem get assured, I don't know about the Hurricanes. Now, what I do want to say is about Clemson. Clemson has the defense. In fact, they just went out and got perhaps the best defensive coordinator in the country in Tom Allen from Penn State. How Miami is over Clemson right now is beyond comprehension for me.
The most interesting thing that I find about the Miami situation is, and by the way, Dono, I know you're listening. We love you, brother, but we got to tell the truth. That's what we do on this show. The most interesting thing that I find about the Miami situation is not even that you got Beck coming off injury. It's that Beck has not thrown to these receivers at all. He has not
proven himself.
Because you're not wrong, Grayson. I am in the same boat as Grayson on Carson Beck, and even beyond that, even if I did think, hey, he's a really good quarterback, there is a first-year transfer thing that happens. If you're not an elite of the elite, number 1 or number 2 overall pick type of guy, you're just, that first year is not going to click. And even for guys that are that at times, it doesn't click. A la a Joe Burrow, who year 1 at LSU, he was all right. There were moments, there were flashes. Year 2, he became a superstar. By and large, we see with these first-year quarterbacks, it takes time. There are exceptions.
Miami had the exception last year with Cam Ward. Right. I was going to point that out.
Miami had an exception. Syracuse had an exception. But everybody else, for the most part, you look around the country and you say, what did Riley Leonard do in terms of who he was at Notre Dame? What did NC State get in Grayson McCall? And with all due respect to him in an injury situation, that may be a little different. But still, for the most part, these one-year transfer guys, they don't produce at the level that you expect them to, because they're somewhere they had 3-4 years in the system. They know the receivers, they know the routes, they know who likes to get what ball where, and then you're going into a new system. I don't see it. And here's the thing. I love Miami's defense. I just think they got what I like to call can't get right-itis. They're always right there. They're always, on paper, they should do it. And then when you put rubber to road, they can't make it.
Or play against Georgia Tech.
Or Syracuse.
I don't know if, and I'm looking at this, and it looks like the win-loss is the same for Clemson and Miami. Even some of the ESPN experts have mentioned that it's kind of shocking how Miami is so high up. I don't think it's the Carson Beck effect. I joked pre-show that it was probably the Carson Beck effect. Maybe it's the Cavender twin effect. I think they probably have a little bit more pull than Carson Beck, even though I know that's kind of a touchy situation right now with Carson. Sorry, Carson.
They broke up.
Yeah, sorry about that, Carson. My bad.
He'll live. He's okay.
I think he's fine. He's obviously getting a lot of money, but we know what happens when guys get a lot of money, whether it's in the NFL or when it's in college football. They typically end up at another university doing nothing, just like they did at that university. So Carson Beck progressively got worse as the season went on, and I think was one of the big reasons why Georgia did not win a national championship again. And I don't know if he's going to be able to bring any success to Miami, and I hope he doesn't, to be honest with you. Their NFL talent is, to me, found in Reuben Bain. It's found in maybe their wide receivers. I love Ray Joseph. It was really heartbreaking that he decommitted from Clemson after being the first commit and being commit for 2 years and then leaving. And he's one of the fastest guys in the country. So, if he can figure out how to work well together with Carson Beck, then he could be extremely explosive. They've got a ton of transfers, and we all love their Their tackle, Maui Goa. I mean, this dude's been a massive presence since being a true freshman and just, basically holding his own against Clemson as a true freshman. So they have talent, but what has Mario Cristobal been able to do? Not put it all together. That's my definition for him. He has a lot of success and he knows how to build an offensive line. Yeah, I'll give him a ton of credit, but putting it all together to actually have success for an entire season, we still haven't seen it from Mario Cristobal. And I don't know if you're going to see it from this team here. And they've added in some good pieces, but to me, I think there's obviously the flash that gives them a huge advantage over Clemson. Dabo Swinney's not a transfer portal lover. This is the first year he's really been serious with it. And but again, it goes back to, can Miami actually live up to any kind of the preseason hype that we get to with them? The record says no right now, at least.
All right. Well, I'm kind of surprised by it too that they're 9th.
Yeah,
I just think that's a little too high. I think Clemson is definitely in the top 10. I would have put Miami somewhere in the 20s. Maybe you can make a case for like 18 or 20 or something like that, but 9th for Miami with Carson Beck coming off elbow surgery. I don't know about that.
When you look at this top 15, I could definitely see them slotting in there. I mean, you've got the Auburn Tigers in there, for Christ's sake. Get Zach Blackerby out of these rankings immediately. Get him away from these rankings because what are they doing?
SEC, it just means more.
Jackson, what is that polar bear doing in Dallas? Why is there a polar bear in Dallas, Jackson?
How is Louisville just 7 spots ahead of Florida State? Like, Louisville should be a top 25.
Louisville's good.
Yeah, they're going to be good.
They're 41.
What?
But that's my point. That's my point about this entitlement of the SEC and us letting a Paul Finebaum run unchecked. Because how the hell do you put some of these – again, in what world is Auburn a top 20 team?
Auburn's 14.
That's what I'm saying.
With Jackson Arnold?
Yes. They believe that a guy that got his spot taken is going to lead them to the promised land.
At Oklahoma. Who wasn't good.
Yeah.
That's neither here nor there. But anyway, speaking of quarterbacks, coming up, top 3 quarterbacks in the ACC. Let's talk about it. Who are the top 3 quarterbacks in the ACC? I guess we're just going to go around the room here. Kenton, let's start with you on this one.
Oh, this is easy for me. I determined this by what I've seen guys do as well as what I'm projecting them to do in this upcoming season, which gives me a very easy top 3. Number 1, Morgan's guy, Cade Klubnik. He's a bad mamma jamma. He started to figure it out at the end of last season. You started to see why he was such a highly touted recruit and why everybody was going crazy about him. And when he committed to Clemson, you started to see it at the end of the season. He continues that with the situation he has, with all that returning production. Wesco and company are not going to get worse. Williams was banged up all last year, still balled out. Same thing for Brown, who I believe is returning as well. Or am I wrong there, Morgan? Is Brown back as well? Wide receiver?
Tyler Brown is back, but you're going to have Tristan Smith or Bryant Wesco or TJ Moore your top 4.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. They've got a ton of depth. They got a ton of talent. They've got all of the makings to be very good there. So I believe that they're going to be just fine. My next one up, this guy is such a good quarterback. He could not throw the ball. And they still said, hey, we're going to need you to win football games here. I saw it firsthand because he assisted in beating my team. Mr. Haynes King. We got to give love to the Georgia Tech Yellow Jackets. He's been in college since all of us were in college, but he's still doing it. He's still balling. And I'm going to tell you, dynamic, dual threat guy. He is a guy that we saw last year, figure it out on the passing side. The legs were always there. I think he's going to be dynamic this year. And my third guy, I'm worried about the situation around him. Everybody keeps telling me, hey, they've still got a ton of good players, but they lost a ton of production. But based on what I've seen him do, this is going to be make or break for him in terms of, is he a quarterback that you win because of or that you win with? And that's my guy, Kevin Jennings from SMU. I think that he's the third best quarterback in the conference. I think those are the top 3, and I think he's closer to Haynes King than Haynes King is to Cade Klubnik. But again, Cade Klubnik's situation just puts him through the roof for me. He's got everything you could want except maybe a proven running game there, which Haynes King does have. SMU, on the other hand, they're fully kind of restocking the shelves. But Kevin Jennings, that's a bad boy. I believe that he has the potential to be special this year.
Me next. I got Klubnik at 1. I used to be a big Cade Klubnik doubter. Since then, I've kind of turned into a eat my words on Cade Klubnik guy. I think he's the best quarterback in the ACC. He's turning into one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and there's really nothing else you can deny that with at this point. So I have Klubnik at 1, and I think he's going to lead a very talented Clemson team this season. In the interest of being just a little bit different, I don't want to copy Kenton because I basically had the same 3. I'm going to put Kevin Jennings at 2. I think he's dynamite. I think what he can do with SMU, even though they have some different pieces to work with this year, he is good enough, especially as a quarterback, as sometimes as a running back, as a pure athlete. He is pure electricity, and I think that he can have another dynamite season for SMU. Number 3 might surprise some folks. I'm going to go with Kyron Drones. I'm a big Kyron Drones guy. He kind of had a disappointing year last year. There's no debating that. I don't know what Virginia Tech is going to be either, but in terms of quarterback ability, I think Kyron Drones is up there with the best of them in the ACC. A lot will be dependent on the situation around him and what kind of season that they want to have down there in Blacksburg, but I'm a big Kyron Drones guy. I have him at 3.
Yeah, a lot of people like Virginia Tech last season. Then week 1 happened.
Yeah.
Believing in Kyron Drones is like Groundhog Day. Every year you're like, this is his year. He's going to break out. We'll find out. He's going to break out.
That's how you are with Thomas Castellanos, to be fair.
Oh, Tom! I'm not doing this with you, Jackson. I'm not doing this with you today. But Thomas Castellanos is the upper half of the conference.
I'm just letting you know he's not in my top 3.
I would expect it.
He's not in my top 5. He's not in my top 7. He's not even in my top 10. Now you could make an argument that he's 14th.
I'm not doing this. That's rage bait. That's bait. I ain't doing it. I ain't doing it with you. Morgan, please let us know your top 3.
Well, okay, so I'll go ahead and throw in another name, maybe somebody that I think is a transfer that studied under Lincoln Riley, that is under Jeff Brom now. Miller Moss would be one that I think probably could jump on the scene. I don't want to put in Carson Beck because of the elbow problems and the fact that we've already finished spring and I don't think he's thrown anything more than a tennis ball. And then for 2 for me would probably be Haynes King. I think that one play away from winning the Georgia game, one turnover worthy quarterback keeper was the difference between him basically having the biggest win of his maybe even his life. And then number 1 for me would be Cade Klubnik. But I'm not going to disrespect Kevin Jennings or Carson Beck. I do think that they're up there as well and in contention to be one of the better quarterbacks out there.
All right, I'll wrap things up here. And you guys have already said all the ones I was going to go with. But I'm going to go with right outside of my top 3 was Miller Moss because I think Jeff Brom he's the quarterback whisperer. He's going to bring in guys and they're going to work well in his system. And, he may not be a NFL caliber quarterback, but he's going to be a damn good ACC quarterback. So he's just right outside of that. Number 3 for me, Kevin Jennings. Loved watching him play last year. That guy's a baller. He's only just going to keep getting better and more confident. When he gets more confident, the level of explosive plays that this guy can put together, both with his arm and his legs, are unmatched in the conference. I think he's awesome. And as Morgan was just saying with Haynes King at number 2, watching that game against Georgia, the guy's a winner. And again, this is another year where he can grow and develop. Now he lost, Eric Singletary to Auburn, one of the best wide receivers in the ACC. I don't think that should honestly matter all that much because I think he's still talented enough to use whatever he's got. And then we'll make it unanimous. Cade Klubnik, number 1.
I also got Cade Klubnik, number 1. If Carson Beck was healthy, he would easily be second, and it would not even be close. The problem is he's not healthy. So
or good.
There's that. I think he's good. I think he's good. He just has to be healthy, that's my question mark with him. But I do know his ability, and I do think he's a very good quarterback. But I can't put him second. I got Haynes King in 2. I think that's pretty obvious. And 3 is Kevin Jennings. But I'm surprised nobody mentioned. And speaking of the NC State guys, no CJ Bailey love.
CJ Bailey's right outside that. He's right outside that group for me. And I'm gonna tell you, I wouldn't be surprised if by the end of the season he ends up playing his way in here, because while we talk about situations, he has one of the best. He has a bunch of returning guys. Everybody's talking about Kevin Concepcion's going, Kevin Concepcion's this and that. If you saw the offense last year, force feeding Kevin Concepcion was not good for us. It was not good at all. They should have gone to other places. You've got one of the best tight ends in the nation in Jolie. You've got a hell of a receiver room returning a ton of depth, a ton of talent, so much so that we pushed out proven seniors that were ballers for us. And you've got a bunch of young guys that are absolute dynamite, like a Terrell Anderson, like a Jonathan Paylor and company that he's going to be getting the ball to, with a Hellcat in Hollywood Smothers next to him at running back. I think he'll be just fine.
And one more sleeper, though. And no Syracuse fans, I'm not going to say Steve Angeli, Ricky Collins. I'm sorry. Darian Mensah. I feel like we haven't really talked about him a lot. Darian Mensah at Duke. I mean, like, he was only one of the top transfer quarterbacks available this offseason, coming from Tulane, had a really good year. Mm-hmm. Why can't he? If you told me there's a group of like 7-8 quarterbacks that I look at, and if you tell me they're going to be second team all ACC quarterback next season, I'll believe you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, and he's like in that tier. So it's, as much as we're doing top 3 here, to me, I look at it as like, yeah, I think Cade Klubnik is the clear number 1. And then everyone else, I kind of look at it and I say, yeah, I know you're really good. I know you're really good. And I know you're really good. And you could be really good too. Or you could be really good too. And Miller Moss is steady. A lot of good quarterbacks in the ACC. Kind of reminds me of last year.
We're the league of quarterbacks. Apparently, our quarterback play just means more. Don't tell the SEC that, though.
No, everyone in the SEC is better, and don't negotiate. That's it. You know, Trevor Lawrence in the SEC would have been terrible. That's it. For sure. He would have been awful. But folks, that is it for this edition of the Locked On ACC Squad. I'm Jackson Holzer, the host of Locked On Syracuse. Kenton Gibbs and Grayson Boone, the hosts of Locked On Wolfpack. Morgan Thomas, the host of Locked On Clemson Tigers. And AJ Black, the host of Locked On Boston College Eagles. And folks, check us all out. And also, when you get to our channel pages, if you can just do us all a favor, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, helps all the channels grow and reach all of the fans of those respective channels. And of course, for your other listen here, when you're done with this podcast, you could check out the new Locked On Portal show with football recruiting expert and the host of Locked On Florida State Seminoles, Brian Smith, who's got the latest rumors and signings each and every day. And you can find the Portal podcast on YouTube or wherever you get your podcasts. And folks, thank you all so much for watching. Thank you all so much for listening, and we'll see you all again soon.